Welcome to a bonus edition of Behind the Mic. I'm Joe Reed. As readers of AudioFile Magazine know, we have a feature called Who's Listening, where AudioFile talks with top authors, narrators, and many others about how and why they listen to audiobooks. Well, it's such a popular feature, we decided to expand it to the podcast. And our first guest for our Who's Listening bonus episode is Patti Callahan Henry, an award-winning and best-selling author of some 18 novels. She's known for books that combine historical detail with character-driven storytelling. And her latest, The Story She Left Behind, is a perfect example of this. In that book, Patti explores the themes of female creativity, family, and literary mystery set against the backdrop of England's Lake District in the mid-19th century. And Patti Callahan Henry is joining me now. Welcome.
Hi, Joe. I am so pleased to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so pleased to have you here. Well, I just mentioned your recent audiobook, The Story She Left Behind, narrated by Julia Whelan and Theo Solomon, and it won an AudioFile Earphones Award.
Oh, I was so thrilled. I remember when the news came through and I thought, no one deserves those kind of awards more than Julia Whelan. And when I found out that she was going to be the narrator for this novel, I knew she was the perfect voice, along with Theo, to narrate. And what you said at the beginning just struck me so much because it is rarely mentioned, but was so important to me. And that's female creativity.
Yes, which really is just the thread that runs through this story. And I thought their voices combined so beautifully together.
Their voices, it made me want to see them on the stage together, almost acting this out, because it wasn't just someone reading a book. Both of them were acting out the novel in a way that I saw in my head when I was writing it on paper. Julie and I did an event together in California, and she did a reading. And I got the same feeling, this kind of head to toe chill bump, that this is a woman who knew how to take what I had already written and bring it to life.
Yeah, I agree. I saw they're performing it and I'm seeing the movie in my head.
Me too.
How involved are you in your own audiobooks?
Really, I just help say yes or no to narrators. But this time, I came straight to the publisher and said, I really want Julia for this book. Julia had read one of my previous novels about 18 years ago. And I always choose her books to listen to. We have been friends through the years, run into each other, spoken together, and even taught together at writers' conferences. And I said, this is the book that would be perfect for her voice. I knew that my character, Clara Harrington, would come alive in her voice. And they said, well, we'll try. And then when it came to Theo, they sent me 4 recordings and asked me to rank them number 1 through 4. I did not look up the people. I did not look up previous books. I just listened to the samples and chose Theo completely from the samples. He was my first choice, and luckily he was available. And then I went and looked him up and looked at the other books he had read out loud and looked at his picture, and he was perfect.
Yeah, he was. He really was. Are you an audiobook listener yourself?
Oh, yes. In fact, I have been on the road for the past 8 weeks for book tour, and I think I've listened to 5 audiobooks on tour. Audiobooks keep me sane, and if I love a book, I will often also buy the hardcover or paperback, depending where it is in the publishing cycle, so that I can look up my favorite parts and look at them on paper and try to understand how the storyteller, how the author grabbed me in the way they did, even if it was audio first. So yes, I am a very big audiobook listener.
Well, you mentioned you listen on tour. Are there other times you tend to listen to audiobooks? I know for me, when I'm in my garden, I'm typically listening.
Oh, I listen when I'm taking a walk. I listen when I'm doing chores around the house. I listen when I'm grocery shopping. I listen in my car.
You
I
sound like
always
me.
have an audiobook going, always.
How do you choose what books to listen to?
How do I choose? Sometimes I choose by the narrator. I'll look at whatever Julie is reading, or the book that I meant to read and haven't picked up yet. So much of what I read, Joe, is before it's published, whether it's for friends in fiction and interviews or for blurb or for work. And so much of what I read isn't on audio yet. So usually the audiobooks I'm picking are books in my to be read pile that are already out and are sitting there waiting for me, and I haven't gotten to them yet. So the past 5 books I've listened to, I own them in hardcover and they're on my shelf to be read. But because of work, I haven't gotten to them yet. And so I chose those first to listen to on audio.
Well, you mentioned Julia as a favorite narrator. Do you have others?
I love Fiona Hardingham. In fact, the book I am listening to right now, she is reading. She narrated my book called Once Upon a Wardrobe, and her voice is so distinctive and so beautiful that I often will search out what she is reading next.
And what about genres, Patty? Are you drawn to any particular genre?
I am such a wide and deep reader. I will read everything from thriller to slow literary fiction. The novel that I have absolutely loved and was immersive and was, I think, an 18 or 17-hour narration and was read by the author, all the way to a 5-hour quick thriller. So I usually choose when I'm driving, I'll try to choose something a little more fast paced, something that keeps me guessing, something that's a little more of a mystery. Where on my everydayness, I'll choose something a little slower, a little more lyrical. But if I'm on a long drive, I want something that's going to make me wonder and not want to stop to drive around the block until I have to stop listening.
I do that when I go to the gym. I listen to mysteries. I have a mystery that I listen to only when I'm at the gym.
See, that's the thing, right? There's different I love that you said that, Joe, because there's different listening for different times, right? If I need to stay awake in the car, I better not listen to something lyrical and melodic, but I want
Exactly.
that when I'm home or when I own the book and can look up long passages. So I love a good mix. And I've been that way when people ask what I read in college or high school, and I say everything from Stephen King to Pat Conroy. People are like, "What?" So my listening is no different. It's all the way from, thriller and all the way to big door stoppers.
I want to talk a bit about Friends in Fiction, your web show with fellow authors Mary Kay Andrews, Kristen Harmel, and Christy Woodson Harvey.
Yes.
How does that sort of collaborative dynamic shape the conversation you have with guests and with each other?
It has been the most extraordinary experience because, as you know, Joe, because you interview authors, one of the things you learn, and has been such an eye opener for me, is this: there is no one way of being a writer in the world. I think I believed for a long time that there was one secret way to be a successful author. And if somebody would just tell me what that was, I could give me the secret key to the box that held all the wisdom of being a great writer. But you interview people and you talk to people and you live in a community of writers and readers, and you realize that the secret is this: there is no secret. And I really love that. I love knowing that as we all pursue the art and craft of writing, we have to, as well as living in community, find our own way. But the writing and reading community are the best people.
Friends in Fiction has built such a dedicated community of readers and writers. And when you launched the show, did you imagine it would grow into the platform that it's become?
Joe, we had no idea. I think it's Mary Kay who says we built the rocket ship on the way to the moon. We thought that we were gathering friends to chat about books on the internet while we were locked down during COVID. When we first started this, we thought we would do it for a month or two, and that once a week we would gather, the four of us chatting on Facebook Live. Now, of course, it is Facebook Live, it is YouTube, it is Instagram, and of course, it turns into a podcast now. And the first author we interviewed, we thought, well, this will just be for fun, because in the beginning, it was just us talking to each other about publishing and writing and stories. We were worried about independent booksellers and libraries. And our first guest was Kristen Hanna. And it was such a technical disaster that to go back and watch it is hilarious. Her audio didn't work, so I held up my phone to the computer so she could hear the questions. And now, of course, we have an AV studio, we have a managing director, Meg Walker. But in the beginning, it was just authors talking to authors and gathering a community of readers that we could have never foreseen. We celebrated when we had 1,000 members on the page. We now have over 250,000 members and readers on our Facebook page.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay, here's the unfair question, but I'm asking it anyway. If you had to think of 2 or 3 titles that you've listened to that, let's say you're speaking with someone who, hasn't listened to an audiobook, says, oh no, I'm really not, I just want to read them. And if you could think of 2 or 3 titles you would give to that person and say, seriously, listen to this, it might change your mind.
Oh, absolutely. If I want to get people hooked on audiobooks, first I tell them about Daisy Jones and the Six, because that is a full cast of readers, and it is one of the most astounding audiobooks. Then I tell people to listen to The Women, which is, of course, narrated by Julia Whelan. And then one that I've listened to just in the past 2 weeks that I absolutely went bonkers for the audio is Wild Dark Shore. It was so incredible. Not only was the narrator incredible, but the dreamy quality of this remote island in the middle of the ocean, and the narrator being able to translate that. It was a gorgeous audiobook.
Do you remember who the narrator is?
Cooper Mortlock, Catherine Luttrell, and Saskia Marleveld. The 3 of them just do an absolutely incredible job.
Well, those are 3 good books to listen to. And Patti, this is a good place to leave it. Thank you so much for giving me your time. I deeply appreciate it. I know how busy you are.
Oh, Joe, I could talk to you about audiobooks for the next hour. I'm not too busy for that. So thank you for having me.
It was truly my pleasure. Thank you. That was author Patti Callahan Henry. You can pick up a print edition of AudioFile Magazine in June, which will feature Patti and her thoughts about audiobooks. Patti's most recent book, The Story She Left Behind, was narrated by Julia Whelan and Theo Solomon and won an AudioFile Earphones Award. And as you heard, Patti is also the co-host of the web show Friends and Fiction. Support for Behind the Mic comes from HarperCollins Leadership, publisher of The Little Book of Data, Understanding the Powerful Analytics That Drive AI, Make or Break Careers, and Could Just End Up Saving the World. Available everywhere you get your audiobooks. Behind the Mic is produced by Jessica Lockhart, Robin Whitten, Michelle Cobb, Stephen Cummings, Leslie Fine, Alan Minskoff, Alex Ritchie, Laura Rossi, and Kendra Winchester are our contributors. Jennifer Dell and Coco McCracken are our editors, and the music is William Ross Chernoff's Nomads 4-Way. And I'm your host, Joe Reed. Good listening.